myself. My name is Cinnamon Trammell. I am the owner of Cinnamon's DanceWorks located in Algonquin, Illinois. I am also the founder of EDM, which is called Empowered Dance Movements. I guess let's start off at the beginning. And the beginning is that for every hardship that someone goes through, there's success at the end of that tunnel. I don't think any entrepreneur or any business owner that I know hasn't gone through some stressful times, whether it's internally with themselves, fighting the greatest obstacle of all, and that's fear, right? Or it's the particular support system that they have around them that allows fear to control them, which now becomes that parasite that they want to spread onto you because they see you leaving them in their state of misery. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you a little bit about my life because even though it's personal, it's what helped me to find the opening to my future door where I wanted to go, and then it allowed me to use that, what I call pain strength, to help others. I think until you have felt pain, can you ever know what it feels like through other people, and then want to see them not have that same pain, you know? So my story is, and I'm going to start from the beginning because everything starts from the beginning. I was taken by the states from my biological parents because my dad accidentally killed my mom with an overdose of heroin. From there, I went through the foster care system for most of my life. At the age of 5, at a foster home, during the big New York City blackout, my foster parents sexually abused me, and then the cops and the agency came and took me away from them. And then maybe about 5 weeks after that, did I meet my adoptive parents, Lena and Walter Trammell, which was a scary sight because my mom came in with a really big afro and then these really big dark sunglasses, so it was kind of scary for a 5-year-old to see all that hair on one person. But they were good parents. They did their best that they could do, because it's hard to love a child that's not yours biologically, right? But they did their best. And my dad was alcoholic, and my mom worked a lot. And so, you know, through my life, I've watched hurt happen everywhere. And being adopted, they send you to therapy, right, to sort of find a way to deal with all your inner demons or inner pains. And so I went to this therapist, and I don't know what was about her, but she found a way to talk to me in a way that I could understand. It wasn't big words and big diagnoses or anything like that. She talked to me as if she was a 5-year-old kid on my level. And I think that always stuck with me because that's what I wanted to do. Because I said, I want to be like her. You know, she inspired me to be like her. I want to help people like she's trying to help me. And she was very nice to allow me to ask questions to her while we sat in a room. So I pretended to be a therapist, right? And I would ask her questions. But funny how she did it, because by me asking questions, she was getting the answers from me that she wanted. And I said, and I think later on in life that I sort of realized that as I went to school to be a psychiatrist. And so that just sort of stuck with me through my whole life. And I went to Delhi State University, and then I went to Columbia University in New York. I graduated with a master's in child psychology and adolescent behavior, and I thought, this is the road that I'm going to go on until I got there. And I met other people that were in the same profession, colleagues of mine, and I realized that something was wrong. The funny thing about money will change you, and it will make you do selfish things and immoral things, all in the cause of saying that I'm trying to help somebody. And I noticed that people would come in with a problem, and they would say, I'm going to help you fix your problem. But then in the same point, create another problem to sort of replace the first problem. That's the only way I can get you to keep the money flowing, is by saying, okay, I'm curing you of this, but maybe the reason why you're like this is because of this. And then before you know it, that sort of train never ends. It's always this keep add on. And I learned something in all this time was that number one, you can't help people unless they want to help themselves. And number two, you can't tell a person what their problem is. You can only help them to find out what are the things that ail them. And then you both try to come up with a game plan of how to eliminate one thing at a time. But if I tell you you can fix it all, and then what happens is discouragement happens, and then you start to feel less than or doubtful of yourself, and now you're adding on to those problems. But if you look at it and say, okay, I want to take the process, and that's how I teach my students. Everything is a process. We walk through life looking from A to Z, right? But we never pay attention to B, C, D, and E, right? And that's, I think that's what helped my business, or helped me through life, all right, is that I stayed with the process, that I got happy for every step I took, not for not getting or getting to the end result. It was about what did I do on B, then what did I do on C, then what did I do on D, you know? So I went through life trying to utilize that, you know. And I'm not going to say that I didn't make mistakes. I belonged to a gang. I was shot, I was stabbed, I was hit by a car on purpose. But then I met a woman in my life that taught me how to love me. And I guess that was always the first step. That was always the first step that I never knew how to take. You know what I mean? I knew there was a process to it, but I didn't know what the first step was. So I took all these other steps, right, which kept bringing me back to this place because I kept making so many mistakes. And she taught me if I could, for me, I had to love myself so I could feel the love that she was giving me, and then to be able to turn around and give that love back. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right? So when I lost her to cancer, it was a really hard time. I was very suicidal, very depressed, didn't want to go on anymore. And the funny thing about most people, and I worked on the suicide squad in college. And what most people don't understand is that it's like a voice that's in your ear, and sometimes it's really faint, and it's almost like a whisper. And then before you know it, the voice was as clear as myself talking to you right now. Yes. And that's when I got scared, when it was no longer a whisper, now it was a yelling, you know? So I would go and I would go to the nightclub, and I would dance until I didn't have enough energy to do anything stupid. And there was many nights that I sat with a gun in my mouth going, I'm gonna end this right now. I'm tired of feeling this hurt, this loneliness, this pain. And I said, okay, all right, that's stupid. All right, let me go dance. And then I would go dance, and it would get to the point where I would be so tired that I would just sit on the floor where I was dancing at, and people would come by and go, "Oh, you all right?" And in those moments, I was all right. It was, and I had taken dance most of my life. My mom put me into ballet, tap, modern jazz, all those things. So dance wasn't foreign to me, but I knew it was a great escape from everything else. So there was a Fred Astaire in a very predominantly white area. I didn't know that at the time. So I went and applied for it. And they said, no, we're not opening. We're not hiring. And then somebody else went in and they got hired. So I started thinking to myself, and this is at a time where we weren't too far away from segregation. And I said to myself,
too far away from it now.
There you go. And so I said to myself, okay, well, I don't know how to fail. I fail all the time, but I don't know how to accept it. Does that make sense? So, when I say I don't know how to fail, it's not me being cocky. It's me saying that, okay, I'm going to fail, but my brain is saying, okay, now what street skills have you learned to now get over that? So it's not failing. It's just an obstacle, a pothole that I got to figure out how to get around or how to maneuver or how to fill. So this was an obstacle for me. And I said, okay, I'm just going to keep applying at this Fred Astaire every day until they hire me. And that's what I did. Every day I went there and filled out an application until they said, we can't give you any more applications. We already got one. I said, until you hire me, I'm going to keep coming here and filling them out. So I guess they got tired of my persistentness about this, and they found me a Fred Astaire in a more diverse neighborhood. And so I went. That was the door, the first door. I trained every day for 8 hours, even though I only had to be there 2 days a week for 4 hours. I went there every day, and I trained, and my friends would be like, well, you're not getting paid for it. Why are you going there? And I said, because I need to do this. And they had a kind of event for the living. I don't know if you know anything about living social. It's like Groupon, right? Where you buy something at a very cheap price or a service at a very cheap price. So it was living social. And all my colleagues that were in that school were all at a competition except for my boss. I had never taught a lesson before, and she said to me, well, it's going to be a group class. Most people don't really come to these living social things, so we'll let you teach it. And I was like, okay, whatever, right? So the class was at about 7:30, and she said, only 2 people should show up, so you'll be fine. You're new at this, they won't care. 7:30 came and 37 people showed up. And my boss was freaking out because she's working with a competition student, right? And so I couldn't work with them because it wasn't advanced enough. And so she said, what are you going to do? Now, immediately, fear took over. But, I know what it's like, fear. I've lived on the streets. I know what it is to have nothing, to be homeless, to eat out of a garbage can, to survive, to panhandle on a New York City street, and just to find a way to get the next meal or buy the next pack of cigarettes. So I know what fear is, but I won't allow fear to control me. I'm a gambling man, right? I like to take risks. I don't mean scary, unnecessary risk, but if something happens that is an opportunity, that's the risk. And if we don't take it, then that door closes, and then we regret everything that we didn't do, So I said, I'm going to do it. And I got out there with these 37 people, And I said to him, the first line of what I said to him was, "You people know more about Foxtrot than I do." And they all started laughing. And when that happened, it's like I saw my whole life flash before my eyes. And I knew at that moment that this was my career. And if you watch me on YouTube or ever come to my classes, I am a comedian when it comes to my teaching. You know, I believe if you're laughing, you're learning. I want my students to make mistakes because you can't fix them if you don't know what they feel like. But I want you to know that you can fail and then find options on how to succeed. And the goal is not always going to be as big as you imagined it. But you got to be happy with the little things, because if I take a stone and I put it here, and then I put another stone, and I put another stone, and I keep doing that for 10 years, before you know it, I have a mountain. And so it's that process. And so with anybody that's starting a business, and that's what I always say, enjoy the process. The final result is never what you think it's going to be. Sometimes it's greater than what you think it's going to be. But you have to do the process. So, I've been teaching now for a little bit more than 2.5 decades. And I'm just giving away my age. I'm 47, but I wear well. Not in this area, but I wear well. The beautifulness of my job is that it fell into my lap. It wasn't even that I had planned on it. It fell into my lap. I guess let's jump some years forward. And I worked for Fred Astaire, and I worked for Arthur Murray's, and I worked for a bunch of small independent dance studios. And I realized something, that I loved dance, but I didn't love the way they were treating people. Everybody was a bottom line, a money thing, and they taught me how to sell so well that I could get you to give me your college fund for dance lessons, or take out a second mortgage for dance lessons. And in the beginning, I was following the pack because I wanted to be like them. I'm looking at all these top performers, and I was like, I want to be that guy. And for 8 months in a row, I was top salesperson 8 months in a row, right? Now you think that I'm battling not just my studio, but 300 other dance studios in that franchise, right? So if I'm top salesperson, I just beat out maybe 200,000 people. So that's like, yeah. But then I'm watching the people that I used to beat it out. And that's what affected me. And I was like, I don't want to be that. That wasn't my dream, right? I wanted to always help people, but it looks like I'm hurting people just to help myself. And I said, I can't do that. I gotta leave. And so I quit, and I made great money at Arthur Murray's and Fred Astaire, right? But I was like, I can't. It goes against who I am, why I'm here, what's my purpose. And I decided, well, I'm just gonna go independent. And I went independent, and I worked for some independent schools, and they had the same concept, money, 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 money. And I've always believed, if you give people what they want as well as what they need, they'll keep coming. And sometimes it's not about the big price ticket. Sometimes it's about, if I get $1 from you every day for a year, right? And I get 500, now let's go some more years, but you only give me $500 at one shot. Mm-hmm. Who comes out bigger? Me working with you for $1 a day, or me going with you for the 500 in one shot? So I thought, make my prices cheaper, give my students what they need and what they want, and they'll keep coming. And sometimes success is not about how fast you can get rich, right? But how rich you can be for your clients, which will then in turn make you rich. And maybe it's not always financial rich. Maybe it's inner you, soul rich, happiness rich. And with that energy, now comes the money. Do you know what I mean? With that energy comes the wealth and the nice cars. And I didn't get in this business for the nice car, but I drive a nice car. Right? I didn't get in this business to have the cute girl on my arm, but I don't think I did so bad. Right? I didn't get in this business to be famous, but because the way I teach and the way I care, it made me famous. You know, and you go into any dance world in the Chicago area and you say, do you know Cinnamon? And there's not too many people that don't. And they will tell you the same thing every time. Oh my God, he's such a wonderful instructor. He's so fun. He took me from not knowing anything and brought me here. You know? And because I learned how to simplify, to make things simple, to make it fun, to get you to see yourself and say, how can I improve me in this arena that I know nothing about? And sometimes I think people don't understand that dance does so many things that most people don't realize. It helps you to set a goal. It helps you to be determined. It keeps you in physical health. It helps your brain activation to where you use your memory all the time, which sort of helps eliminate Alzheimer's or dementia, right? It helps you with your partner as far as learning how to communicate in a different way and understanding, and that partnership is teamwork, and it's not about I and what I can make you do, right? It brings you closer together with that person that you're dancing with, because the one thing that we lack in our life and that we need the most is what? Touch. And that's what dance is, 90% touch. So with that understanding, I'm watching how I'm helping all these people, right? Relationships and widowers and all these, and they're finding themselves, and it's like, wow, here I am thinking that I failed in life because I didn't become a therapist, and I spent all that money learning to do that, and I'm doing it now in a different environment. Do you know what I mean? Where my students would come to me every day and they would tell me their problems. And I'd be like, oh, you'll be all right. Let's do the cha-cha. You know? But the thing was, I'm watching my students grow and feeling happy about themselves when they get a dance step, or when they do a competition, or when they're hanging out with other people, or when we're at the nightclub and they go, I did it. And I'm like, yeah, you did it. And now they go out and they use that I did it mentality for everything else. If I can do it here, I can do it there. And so I was like, wow, that's pretty freaking cool. And I was talking to somebody about that because at that particular time, you know, when I got my studio, because I was lucky, it was God sent, it fell into my laps. That's another long story. We'll go there. All right. But I was scared to open it. But I couldn't ignore it because it was like, well, I guess I got to tell you the story. I was renting space from the dance studio that I work at. And about 3 months in, the owners of the dance studio said to me, we're closed effective immediately, good luck. And I had been trying to open up the studio, but it was like $300,000 to $500,000 to build out a ballroom dance studio. And I was like, I don't have that money. And they were like, it's closed. So my first thought is, let me call the landlord. And I called the landlord and I said to him, what can I do to take over this studio? And he said to me, well, you got to get this, you got to get this, you got to get this, you got to get this. And I said, okay, I'm going to go get those things. All right? Now remember, I've never owned a business before. I've managed a business, but never owned my own. And I was married at the time, and I asked my wife, I said, honey, I did this research, right? And it's going to be like $10,000 to open up this studio, right? And I was like, I don't have the greatest credit in the world, right? So I said, will you help me? And my wife looked at me and said, I won't, because it's going to fail. And you don't understand how much of a blow that is when the person that should support you the most is the one that is the first to slap your dreams down. And the first thing she said to me is, not my dream. So, because it's not my dream, I'm not going to help you. And my I can't fail mentality said, oh, okay, woman, I'll show you. And in 1 week, I made $10,000. I sold ghost lessons where I said, if you give me the money when I open up the studio, you'll have these lessons in your book. And since I had already made a name for myself, there was a lot of people that were right there saying, I don't want lessons, here's $1,000. All right, I'll buy 10 lessons from you. I'll buy 20 lessons from you. I'll just donate money to you. And it's like the universe was just like, this is for you now. We gave you that obstacle of your wife, but what I like is that you still went forward. You didn't let fear stop you. If anything, you used that energy to become more determined to do what you needed to do. And I had a turnkey business. And they had already built the studio out. The floors were already there. The mirrors were already there. The only thing I had to buy was the music system, right? And the first day I opened up, within an hour, I was teaching my first lesson. And that's how it's been. And I've been in business now for 4 years. And most businesses don't make it after one. And it wasn't about the amount of education that I had about owning the business. It was about my drive that I couldn't fail. And I did. I made a lot of mistakes. My accountant would tell you, right? But the thing is that I had to keep moving. And this was my dream, my door, my opening, my feeling. And my heart was in it 100 and 200, 300%. And I couldn't let it go away. And so no matter what the world threw at me, I just kept going. Because the thing is, if I didn't push myself, who was? Who would? And so I had the studio. I'm working. I'm helping all these people because I believe to myself every time I wake up in the morning, I say, how many lives am I going to save today? Because I'll be honest with you, dance saved my life. And that's how I go into my office every day. How many lives am I saving today? And with that concept, I was telling somebody about it, and they were like, well, you already work with mentally disabled people, physically disabled people. You do all this charitable work for this organization and that organization and this organization. Why not create your own? And I had never thought about that before. I was like, I just like doing what I do. And I was like, well, how can I do more? And one of my students was, well, why don't you create a non-for-profit? And I was like, I don't know anything about non-for-profit because I'm still trying to make a profit. And they were like, well, this is how you do it. And they put me in the right area because I had done so many charitable work for other non-for-profits in my area that my name was very known among them. So I just reached out and I was like, okay, can you tell me what I need to do? And they said, well, we'll help you and we'll be on your board.
So you got your 501c3 together?
Mm-hmm. Right. And so they said, we'll be on your board. And so they did all the work and all that. And they said, but you can't be on the board. And I said, And they said, you can't be on the board because we would want to pay you. And because we would want to pay you, you can't make a profit if you're on the board. So you will be our artistic director. And then you founded it, so you're now our artistic director. And this is how we're going to work it out.
That's great.
And so EDM was formed, Empowered Dance Movement, because why I wanted to do it is because ballroom dancing is expensive. And I wanted to find a way to offer it to single moms who are having problems with their kids and they need an outlet for them. I work with a lot of couples going through divorce or hardship, and so I have divorce lawyers that call me and they say, I got a couple for you. Can you work with them? Now, I'm not going to say all of them are success rates, but the process of them going through divorce is very different after they work with me, because when you go through a divorce, what's the first thing that happens? You try to make yourself an enemy so that you can pass your own guilt of what you did or did not do that caused this. So now they're the bad person. And the first thing in the troubled relationship is, what is the first thing that leaves it? Touch. Once I can get you touching, you can't help but to remember what it was like when we used to touch. What was it like when you were in my arms? What was it like when I smelt your unique scent about who you are? To hear your breathing, to feel you move gently around me or away from me. That's a beautiful thing about love. No matter how much you hate a person, it never dies. It's always somewhere in there. You just put it in the file cabinet back to where you couldn't reach it. And the first time you touch them, all of a sudden that file cabinet moves up front. And that's why we try to stay away from the people, because of the simple fact that we're scared to unleash that. We got to be strong. We got to be bold. But sometimes strength comes in giving, not taking. And so I decided, I'm going to help these people with the art of dance. And then it just snowballed from there. I work with veterans that suffer from PTSD. And the reason why I like working with them is because, PTSD, I always think of it like there's a lot of noise going in their head, that creates anxiety. And so, they're not sure which one to pick, which one to focus on. With dance, it's like I take all that noise and I turn it into just one, because then it's manageable at that point. I always tell people I'm not the cure. I'm just a helpful hand while you go to your therapist or whoever you need to go to talk about it. But now I give you an outlet to utilize that energy, that excess energy that keeps you wound up. Now I give you a way to use it. When I work with kids, especially troubled teens, I do what's called a choreography program. And what that is I teach them how to do choreography. And in that, I ask that they turn their feelings, the things that their demons, the hurt that they have, and I say, make that a physical movement, if you can. And then I videotape them. And then I let them see it.